I think you and I we're really good at
Damn. Brendan going through it, innit? A little bit, innit? But to be fair to Brendan, I know this is a sentence that people don't like to hear when I say this. To be fair to Brendan, he was technically doing this whole thing on his own, maybe with the assistance of Chin. And I mean on his own in obviously quotation marks, but he was kind of doing it on his own because he had no real help from Bryan. Somebody made a point the other day, by the way, in my comments. Big up people leaving comments with the clips, by the way. And timestamps I added yesterday's episode. I added timestamps to yesterday's episode. Timestamps for this episode will be done after I finish as well. Just to let you know, if you want to watch this stuff on the replay, you have to be a member. Videos on demand will only be exclusively available for members only. But when I made a clip the other day, somebody left a comment that said something like, I think it was a Bryan Callen one. Oh, if he does get paid 25 grand per month from TFATK, remember that 25 grand fee that BGL said Bryan Callen gets paid. If he does get paid, someone made a good point and said maybe the reason why his attitude is kind of shifted and he doesn't seem to be that interested because his entire paycheck goes on towards alimony. So his entire paycheck he gets from TFATK goes to pay alimony. I never thought about that. I was like, yeah, that's true. So he doesn't really, I mean, he's working for nothing essentially. So I understand now why if Brendan's like, hey, do Patreon, he's like, fuck that. Do you know what I mean? I don't make any money on this anyway. Plus he probably had some sort of pay cut, you can imagine, since they've moved to Texas and operation costs have kind of changed. That might explain partly why Bryan's attitude has been a bit poor, but I can have a little bit of sympathy with Brendan in terms of it being a hard year for him because he did do this move by himself. Bryan offered no help. I don't think Bryan even did any viewings for the studio. Like all the like Bryan's complaints about the studio. Let's be fair. Bryan's complaints about the studio, I love them. I find them super funny.
And Interstellar. And apparently there's a race car out front. Sounds like an old Porsche.
Is that noise that we're hearing? Do they hear this noise?
No.
they can hear, but it's not as bad as you would imagine.
This is the barbecue. It's called Styles Switch Barbecue.
Just so everybody knows, I'm breathing in fumes right now.
Oh, because I had to start the beast up?
That's correct.
I had to start the beast up?
Yeah, I love that. Because what happens is all that carbon monoxide sits right here, right now. So I'm getting high.
That's what those fans are. It's a free high.
It's a free high.
Glass half full.
Glass half full.
Free high.
It's a free high. I'm
free high.
Dying.
Really caring or being sympathetic that Charlie
Jim, text the lady and be like, they gotta stop.
I think I have a unique take on this. Being critical, there's
some
anti-cancel culture, and now they want cancel culture. To me, this is not cancel culture at all. Like, what cancel culture is when you...
It means so much to me, dude.
Oh my God. Let's just pause for a second.
We should play this.
All right, go ahead.
So this building. I'm done with this building.
I hate this
I'm done with this studio. I'm done with this building. They make it impossible to podcast here. And that's the shit I'm dealing with. It doesn't even the fire alarm doesn't work. We ain't turning that off.
Because the studio isn't a studio, it's a fucking car garage. It's not built for audio, it's not built for video, it's not built for podcasting. It's a fucking car garage with a fucking serrated, what's that, grated, whatever, tin roof, right? It's a fucking garage. So I love him complaining about it because obviously it's not set up to podcasting. But it's also a bit rich coming from Bryan. Like, why the fuck are you complaining? You didn't help to find another space. You know what I mean? You weren't underground doing none of this viewing. So him complaining would kind of get on my nerves if I was Brendan. Because motherfucker, you didn't help anything. I had to do this all on my own with fucking Chin helping me. And Chin's fucking useless. So I can have sympathy for him slightly with this. I'm not going to lie.
Adjusting to crazy shit.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
Yep. There's another way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And Bryan's just kind of...
Chin doesn't adjust. By the way, Chin's lying there. Chin doesn't adjust to crazy shit. How long did it take Chin to fucking find a place there? Don't get me wrong. He was holding out a little bit maybe for a job in LA. But it took Chin quite long to finally get a crib over there in Texas. And then he ended up buying one. He ended up getting one that was, made for like a family or fucking free, for whatever reason. Chin wanted a house with like 3 rooms so he could have one room be a gym, one room be a studio. Personally, I don't get it. I think if I'm living on my own, the last thing I want is stairs. Not too sure if you guys agree, but if I'm living on my own, the last thing I want to be doing is going up and down stairs and shit and having various rooms. I want a nice little fucking 1 bed or 2 bed max. I don't want fucking 3 bedrooms plus stairs and a garden and shit. Like, Chin's fucking crazy. And I bet Chin only got that place because it was the only one available at that point. You know, he just couldn't bother to look anymore. So I don't think Chin adjusts that well when it comes to change, I would argue.
Damn it.
Brian's
Oh my
just
God.
a traveler. You know, he just
It's just, yeah.
Brian's just rich. Brian's not no, sorry, I take that back. Brian's wealthy. Like, Bryan comes across like a wealthy guy. He comes from a wealthy family. That's why there's no real, you know what I mean? There's no real onus for him to really get involved. He never really feels like he's rushed. You know what I mean? Yes, he does all the embarrassing, like, trying to seek virality on social media things, but I also don't think it's linked to money. I think Bryan just would prefer to be more famous. I don't think Bryan does those videos on Instagram trying to get more money. He just wants to be more famous. He wants to be more well known. But Bryan definitely, you can tell, comes from a very wealthy family. That's why he's so kind of lackadaisical, doesn't take anything too seriously. You know what I mean? That's why, because deep down inside, he knows there's a nice, big, cushy safety net waiting for him at all intents and purposes. And to also be fair to Bryan, though, Brendan has indulged him throughout these years. That's always been their dynamic. Brendan's the one that gets the stuff done, and Bryan's the kind of like loosey-goosey, comedian, ephemeral, kind of like free spirit guy. That's always been their dynamic. So Brendan can't complain now. You know, Bryan's been useless. Even during the peak of TFATK, when they're making the most money, Bryan was useless and didn't really get involved in much of the running or the day-to-day of the show and the business. So now that the chips are down, now that things are harder, don't expect him to step up. You know what I mean? He doesn't give a fuck, clearly.
You told me from the beginning.
The day we met.
Yeah.
Get ready, man.
Yep.
He's a wild boy. You never know. Like, we weren't planning to have a fine kid today, and then, was it yesterday?
Yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday. He texts, "Hey, I'm coming in, man. God, we can't go this long without a show 'em all." Yeah, I know. That's what I told you. Thank God you're coming in, man. You know?
Yeah.
He's just a wild boy, dude. He's just a wild.
So he doesn't know when the show's recorded. As much as I want to rag on Bryan for not knowing when the show's recorded, I also get the feeling these guys don't really discuss anything about the show beforehand. I don't even feel like they have like a group chat. I don't feel like they have a group chat specifically for TFATK where they say to each other, "Hey, we're recording today." You know? I don't think so. I think they text each other individually. But I don't think they have a group chat with like all the producers, Brendan and Bryan, the manager, where they just discuss about the show. When are we recording? I don't think they have it. If they do, and Bryan still doesn't know when they record, that's a piss take. But again, I think Brendan has let him get away with murder for a lot of years. And you've this is the monster you've created, so it kind of is what it is.
Wild boy. I'll tell you what, I was excited for Christmas. That's how you know you're getting older. I got these pants for Christmas, and my father-in-law goes, "Oh, they look comfortable."
Yo, Bitcoin in the stream chat. Having Bryan's privilege and losing your family to start another one as a hell of a lot of worse than Cardi B upgrading to her plan. Yeah, I need to. You know what? That's what I need to do. I need to make a video on that. Actually, I need to make a video on Bryan's divorce because I remember that like it's yesterday. Let me see. I'm gonna do a members only video on that. Actually, Bryan Callen's divorce. I need to make a video on that because I remember when it happened, right? And the vibe they were giving off when Bryan got divorced from his first wife was that she initiated it, but Bryan was happy it happened, and they made it seem like the marriage, or her specifically, was holding Bryan back from being the best version of himself, from killing it in comedy or acting. I swear to God, I remember this like it was yesterday. That was what they were saying but not saying. I remember the time thinking, huh? Why would your wife not want to be stopping you becoming, like, I don't understand. Like, you got together when you were acting. She knows what the deal is. Why would it suddenly be hindering your career? I remember the time it didn't really make any sense to me. So I should make a standalone video where I kind of go over how that turned out. But I do remember Brendan specifically even saying to him on an episode one time, like, "Yeah, your career is gonna go crazy now, man." It obviously didn't go crazy. Nothing really changed. And then I remember as well, very soon after that, he hooked up with the other woman. So I remember that didn't make no sense. I was, hold on, if your ex-wife was holding you back, wouldn't you want to stay single for a while to just do your own thing? soon after he hooked up with that new lady, the second wife, and soon after that she was pregnant. So I was like, that doesn't make any sense. So the AI thing and the divorce thing is a very interesting bit of a lore and saga arc when it comes to Bryan Callen. It doesn't really make any sense, but I think his life in general doesn't make sense.